Where's Fernando? I was gonna start with him, but anyway. All right. So hi everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. So we had a university fair early in the morning with universities from the UK, US, Australia, and Brazil. Now we have the opportunity to learn more about studying in Canada with Alex. So we're going to learn a little bit about the University of Winnipeg and also learn about studying in Canada overall, undergrad, right? I heard, I don't want to give a spoiler, Alex, but I heard there's a scholarship for APs, and I thought it was really interesting. So since you guys are also taking APs, so thank you so much again for being here. I hope you enjoy this. And thank you for also coming to our school, Alex. This is a great opportunity. So hi, everyone who's online. Thank you for being here as well. I hope you enjoy.
Excellent. Thank you, Evelyn. Welcome, everyone. Hi. Those of you joining us online, as well as folks in the audience today, my name is Alex Kashanja, and I'm really excited to be here in your school. It's a lovely school. I got a really fantastic A+ tour of this school. And I'm excited to show a little bit, to share a little bit about the University of Winnipeg, and also kind of talk about my own journey at the University of Winnipeg, because I went to school here. I was an international student myself. So I'm born and raised in Nairobi, Kenya. Anyone know where that is? Everyone knows? East Africa, yes, excellent. So I left Kenya when I was around 17, 18, and I was exploring different universities. I went and did education fairs, UK universities, universities in the US. And I actually met someone who was told me about the University of Winnipeg. I had never heard of Winnipeg as a city in Canada. In Canada, if you're not from Canada, most people will have heard of Montreal, Vancouver, Toronto, etc. But I hadn't heard of Winnipeg, and I had a chat with a rep who told me, hey, why don't you kind of explore the University of Winnipeg? It's located right in the middle of the country, so about halfway between Toronto and Vancouver. Now, for me, what was Nairobi it's not as big as Sao Paulo, but it is a big city. It's about 8 million people. Now, I didn't want to, so I'm born and raised in the city. I love the city. I love the vibe of big cities. But I kind of did not want to go to a university in a city that was very, very large. But at the same time, I kind of also did not want to go to a university that was in a city of maybe a few hundred people. So I wanted something in between. And Winnipeg is a really great in-between city, literally in the middle of the country, but also not so big and not so small. You get the advantage of being in a city that is diverse, over 13 different neighborhoods, including a very vibrant French Quarter, Saint Boniface. You get to be in a city where there are people from all over the world. You get also to be in a city where we've got the University of Winnipeg that has over, you've got 10,000 students, of which 1,600 are international students, right? As well, when we kind of think about the University of Winnipeg, we are located in the downtown campus. So we are not on the outskirts of the university. That was also something that was kind of important for me. I wanted to be in a university where it was going to be easy to get around the city, to explore the city, to get to campus, to get from campus, university where residence was right next to campus. So the University of Winnipeg is perfectly situated right in the middle of campus. It's easy to get to, it's easy to get from. It makes the transition from high school to university, especially if you're coming from a different country, that much easier. And most students will come to university in the fall. That is where you will get to experience. So the fall in Canada is in September. You get to experience the beautiful fall colors. You get to experience the Nice weather. It's not too hot. It's not too cold. Most students will start in September. That's when it is extremely vibrant. There's a lot of action on campus. The fall also has some really wonderful student-friendly events and festivals. For example, Nuit Blanche, which is a wonderful art project, art festival where different artists showcase their art throughout the night. So it begins from about 10 p.m. and ends at 5 in the morning. All over the city, you have different art installations, art exhibits. It's all free. It's really wonderful. When I got a tour of this school, I saw the artwork and I'm like, wow, I think there's some artists here who could showcase their art when they come to the University of Winnipeg. And then usually our school year will go from September right up until April. The winter in Winnipeg is between, the winter term is between January and April. It does get cold in Winnipeg, just like pretty much anywhere in Canada. So you're not going to escape the winter, wherever it is that you go to Canada. But things don't stop. Like life does not stop, life continues. There's some really interesting experiences that you can have. When I first went to the University of Winnipeg, I had a number of Canadian friends who would be excited about the winter. And I'm from a warm country and I'd think, why are people being excited about the winter? But it was quite exciting to see snow for the first time. My Canadian friends dragged me out to try ice skating. I was very poor at it and I only did it once. I fell many times and I said, well, maybe this is not for me. We did snowshoeing. I think maybe in my second year or my third year, a good friend of mine took me ice fishing, which basically means, or rather encompasses just sitting on a frozen lake, drilling a hole about 4 feet deep, and then putting your fishing rod down and just waiting on a frozen lake. And just chatting and having a good time. So again, did it once. So these are really interesting experiences that form part of living in Canada, being at the University of Winnipeg. In the previous slide, so this is one of our rivers. So it's the Assiniboine River. It's the second longest in Winnipeg. In the winter, it freezes over completely. And in some years, we have set the record of having the longest natural skating rink. About 3 years ago, it was 10 kilometers long. So you could skate up and down for 10 kilometers. I actually like the winter for one very specific reason. Not the cold, it's tough. But one of the reasons why I like winter is because when the river freezes, I live next to that river. When it freezes, I get to walk across the river to go to work. And it takes me only 5 minutes to walk across the river to get to work, as opposed to in the spring or in the fall or in the summer, it takes me a whole 20 minutes. I have to go around and over the bridges. But when the river is frozen, I just cut across and I'm in work in 5 minutes or less. But it is an experience. When you're at the University of Winnipeg, when you're living in Canada, it's not cold all the time. At some point, it warms up. You will find yourself, especially if you've lived a few years, 2 or 3 years, you'll find yourself wearing shorts. Once the weather turns from about -20 to about 5 degrees, it will feel as if it's summer. You'll be out wearing shorts and a t-shirt. I did that. I could not believe that kind of is a sign that I had been in Canada for a few years. But our spring and our summer is really beautiful. It's not too hot. It's not so humid. Lots of activities on campus. A really great thing about the summer term is most students will not take classes. And this is an excellent time for you as a student to perhaps get a summer job or take part in a research project or just enjoy what Winnipeg has to offer in terms of the summer. As I mentioned earlier, we have about 10,000 students. About 1,300 are from over 75 countries. Actually, that number is a bit up. It's about 1,000 600 international students from over 90 countries. We've had Brazilian students come to the University of Winnipeg for many, many years, whether they're coming to do their full degree or they're coming on exchange, or they're coming to improve their English language skills and want to come for maybe a term. It is an excellent option, a really great place to begin your life in Canada. As a university, we are primarily an undergraduate university. So that means that over 85% of our students are taking bachelor programs. Now in Canada, you have a bachelor program is 4 years. Okay, so it's fairly standard. But at the U of W, there is an option to do a 3-year degree, which is still a really good, strong undergraduate degree, but not. And the main difference really is that a 4-year degree is great if you want to do a specialization. So for example, if you're a business student, business being a really popular major at the University of Winnipeg, especially amongst international students, if you do a 4-year degree, you get the option of concentrating in international business or accounting or human resource management. But the 3-year degree is still great because you will still take courses in those subject areas, but you may not necessarily want to do specialization. So I got a business degree at the University of Winnipeg. I did it as a 3-year option. I didn't necessarily want to do a specialization, but most of my peers did. And all our degrees have that flexibility. This is, again, one of the big reasons why I wanted to go to school in Canada. The idea that I could figure out the things that I am interested in. I could change my mind, right? I could explore different programs. I remember in my first year, I did history, political science, and business. And halfway through that first year, I had changed my major, I think, 4 times, right? So any course that I took, yeah, exactly. You can definitely change your major multiple times. In fact, any course that you take at the University of Winnipeg will count towards any eventual degree. That flexibility is super, super important for many students. And it helps students kind of figure out their path, kind of figure out the things that they're interested in by taking courses, right? Because how will you know you like psychology more than human rights if you don't actually take psychology courses? Or how will you know that you want to specialize in accounting if you've never taken a business course? And maybe you'll take a business course and realize, well, I really wanted to do accounting, but after this first course, I think I like psychology better. That flexibility will be with you, and it's an experience that is really valuable at the University of Winnipeg.
I have a question.
Yes.
So it's not exactly like the US where you can apply undecided. But my question is actually regarding like the changes. Is it just between the same departments, or can you just change from engineering to psychology in a bit?
Yeah, so you can change between the faculties. In fact, I mentioned earlier that I got a business degree, but whilst I was doing business, I took a very random course called Intro to Conflict Resolution. That's another thing about going to university, is that you have the opportunity of taking courses that you're like, this looks interesting. I don't want to major in it, but maybe it looks like an interesting course. So I took Intro to Conflict Resolution, which is in the Faculty of Arts. I loved it so much that I finished my 3-year Bachelor of Business Administration and decided to continue taking courses in conflict resolution. And I got a second degree as a Bachelor of Arts in conflict resolution. So you can always change majors within a faculty or even across different faculties. That flexibility is there at the University of Winnipeg throughout your studies. And I mentioned some of the faculties, so we've got 4 of them: arts, science, business, and kinesiology. Some of our popular programs. Business is really popular when it comes to international students, but as well programs such as political science, kinesiology for those folks who want to study human movement. They want to get into sports-related type programs. The sciences tend to be also quite popular. Applied computer science, which offers a specialization in software engineering. It's our only engineering type of program at the University of Winnipeg. Neuroscience is also really excellent, especially for any student who might want to use neuroscience as a pre-med option. But as I said, being able to double major, maybe you like political science as much as history. Get a double major, a Bachelor of Arts in political science and history. It will not take you longer. It will not cost you more. It'll cost the same amount of time. It'll take you the same amount of time to do a double major as a single major. So you have the opportunity to really tailor your degree at the University of Winnipeg to the things that interest you. And our students do some really interesting combinations. I have a really good friend who did a bachelor. He got a Bachelor of Arts in Human Rights, but also did business, right? Because his focus was really on thinking more about social corporate responsibility, right? I have peers, friends who have done a science degree, applied computer science, but they've also combined that with theater and film. They like performance, but they also wanted to be able to, so they wanted to work in the movie industry, and their computer science skills allowed them to get into special effects, right? But at the same time, they were able to take theater and film courses. They specialized more in the film. So the ability of doing a few different things is really central to the University of Winnipeg, because we have an understanding, or we encourage and know that students are interested in more than one thing, right? As humans, we are complex, right? Just because I'm a business student doesn't necessarily mean that that's the only thing I am interested in. In fact, at the University of Winnipeg, you cannot graduate from the U of W if you only take courses in the subject that you're interested in. I would never have graduated from the U of W if I only took courses in business. At the University of Winnipeg, in order to graduate, doesn't matter what program, what faculty, you have to take courses that are outside of your major and that are outside your area of specialization. That is a graduation requirement, and that really gives our students the idea that explore programs, even if you're taking a course just for the fun of it. I remember taking a course in Roman art and architecture. I was a business student. I'd never taken a course in Roman art, but it was a really fun course. It was really interesting. And I remember many years later, I went on vacation and I was in Italy. I went to Rome, and it's as if that class came to life as I was walking down the streets of Rome. You never know where a course can take you in life. You never know where a degree can take you in life. And one of the reasons why we at the University of Winnipeg, we require students to take courses in a few different areas is really to prepare them for their careers outside the University of Winnipeg, because those are all skills that you're going to be using, whether you know it right now or not. The skills and that you learn from your courses, whether it's courses that you have to take because they are part of your major, or courses that you're taking just purely out of interest, they will count, not just in terms of your academic career, but also life outside of university. Okay, let's talk money. Okay, few entrance scholarships available at the University of Winnipeg. So for students, international students, they're eligible for these scholarships. We have the President's Scholarship for World Leaders, which has a maximum value of $5,000. This is a scholarship that is really geared towards students who have, amazing grades, great grades, but also are involved in their community. They have good letters of recommendation. They show leadership potential, and that leadership potential can come in many different ways. Anything from sports to community involvement to after-school programs, etc. So it's a pretty competitive scholarship, but we have 2 of those awards that are dedicated to students from Latin America. So you do have an opportunity to apply for that particular award.
Is it $5,000 per year or just once?
It's just once.
Just
But
once.
I'll talk about the other year. So these are the entrance scholarships for that first year. As well, students who are doing AP, they can get an additional 2,250. We also have an international special entrance scholarship that's automatically awarded to any international students who has an admission average of at least 85%. That is, you don't need to do anything extra. You will get a value of between $1,000 and $3,000.
Sorry, I'm very curious.
Please.
Can you accumulate? Can you have more than one?
You can, yes, you can definitely have more than one. That's a great question. Generally, you can have more than one, but you can't have more than 2, right? So it depends on where you kind of fall. If you get the President's Scholarship for World Leaders, then it will either be an AP scholarship or the International Special Entrance Scholarship. If you don't get the President's Scholarship, then it could be the automatic scholarship plus the AP. So that's kind of how we do the combination. But when it comes to scholarships at the University of Winnipeg, this is for your first year, but they're still your second, third, fourth year. One thing that we do at the U of W is that once you get into your second year, we don't make a distinction between international and Canadian students, which means that you can apply for any and all scholarships that are available. It could be anything from a few $100s to up to $10,000. Let me tell you what, like my journey and my experience when it came to scholarships. So I was a good student in high school, don't get me wrong, but I didn't get an entrance scholarship in my first year. So that first year was, financially, I was like, oh, okay, it's quite expensive. But when I got to the U of W, I remember meeting an academic advisor who said, you didn't get a scholarship in your first year, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to get any subsequently. My academic advisor really encouraged me to, make sure I have good grades, but to apply for any and all scholarships that are available at the U of W. And every year, second, third, fourth year, I got some amount. In fact, my last year, I never paid any tuition fees. My second last year, I think 50% of my tuition fees were paid by the various scholarships. So whether you choose to go to the University of Winnipeg or you go elsewhere, never let an application for a scholarship prevent you from putting your name in the hat, right? As the saying goes, you can't win the lottery if you don't buy a ticket. So every year I used to apply for scholarships. Sometimes I think I got some money because people kept seeing, the folks who make decisions on scholarships kept seeing my name. Yeah, Alex Gashanja, Alex, they were like, oh man, we better give this guy a little bit of money. Little did they know, whenever they'd give me a bit of money, it would encourage me to apply for even more scholarships. So don't forget about your second, third, fourth years. Even if that first year you don't get a particular scholarship, but also there are few financial advantages to coming to the University of Winnipeg. Yes, our scholarship values might not be as grand as some of the larger institutions. However, our tuition is not so bad. So for a full year, tuition plus health insurance plus an estimate of books, it'll coming to about 19 to 23,000 Canadian dollars. Canadian dollar is less than the US dollar. So this tuition amount, this cost for the year is very competitive when you compare it to not just other Canadian universities, but other universities in similar type countries. So whether it's our neighbors to the south in the US or for example, in the UK or in Australia, the University of Winnipeg, the cost of studying for a year will be between $19,000 and $23,000. And really, fingers crossed, knock on wood, this cost will not change too dramatically for when you are now ready to start your studies. Typically, any increases that happen year on year are not that dramatic. The other thing to recall is that, yeah, we estimate you'll be spending about $2,000 on books, but in reality, most students do not spend that amount of money on books. And in fact, now, since the pandemic, a lot of course material has moved permanently online. So that means that most students, international students, will be paying less than that amount. So there is a cost advantage to coming to the University of Winnipeg. Residence is available on campus. Again, this residence is extra. So depending on the residence that you choose, you can pay anywhere from about $5,000 to up to $10,000. The residence that is more expensive includes a meal plan. So the residence that you choose, again, residence is optional, but the residence that you choose is going to be based on your preferences. Maybe you're someone who wants the convenience of living on residence, not having to worry about cooking or buying groceries, or maybe you can't cook or don't want to cook. Then maybe you want to opt for the residence with a meal plan. The meal plan allows you to eat on campus, so you have money on your student card, and you just use it in the various cafeterias and eateries all around campus. Both residence options are 2 or 3 minutes walk from your residence to classes. The other option is the Balmoral houses. This gives you, it's a little bit less expensive. There is no meal plan, but you're living in a university house with 3 or 4 other university students, a mix of Canadian and international students. So I stayed in a residence where like Balmoral houses, where I was sharing the house with 3 other students. 2 of them were Canadian students, and one was also an international student like myself. I liked the Balmoral type houses because it gave me flexibility on cooking whenever I wanted. I like to cook. I also like to eat at weird times, 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning. So that's having the Balmoral houses as an option was really great. But whatever residence you end up choosing, you will, number one, always have your own room. So you'll never share a room with anyone at the University of Winnipeg residences. You'll always have your own room. And the McPheeters Hall, you also, if you've got a single room, so your own room, you'll also have your own bathroom. So your choice of residence will really be based on what are your preferences. If your preferences are pure convenience and privacy, maybe you want to do McPheeters Hall. If your preferences are, hey, you know what, I really would like to live in a setting that feels a little bit like a home, the Balmoral houses are great. In the Balmoral houses, I remember my residence experience, at least when things are not busy, because university is hectic, but in the times of the year when it was not too busy academically, me and my roommates, we would make dinner together on Sundays. So I'd make something from Kenya, my friend from Uganda would make something, my Canadian friend would make something, my friend from Korea would make something, and we'd have this little international potluck, that's what we call them, a shared meal, every so often, every Sunday. And the folks I lived in residence with, the folks that I made friends with in that first year, many of them, we are still friends many, many years later. And that residence experience was really excellent. But I also had friends who lived in the equivalent of McPheeters Hall, and they had an amazing programming at residence, because university is not just about going to school, right? You want to go to a place where you can join student groups. You want to go to a place that gives you the opportunity to apply what you're learning in the classroom to the real world. So for example, taking advantage of our co-op program, which gives you the opportunity to work in your field of studies for a term, you're paid for it. So for example, students who do a co-op can do their co-op experience at a bank. So they're business students, and then they're doing their co-op at one of the major banks in Canada. Many students who do a co-op end up either being employed after graduation at the same place that they did their co-op, or in the same field. So it might not be that bank that you did your co-op, but it will be the bank next door.
And from what I heard, so just a quick comment about the residency hall. Guys, it is not common
Not
in
at all.
any university to find
Not
a
at all.
residency hall where you'd have your own bathroom.
Not at
Even
all.
the one that I went to New Mexico, you were there too.
Yes, I was there.
And it was a shared bathroom, and I'm an adult, right? So it's like it's not common. It's not common at all. So it's interesting when we hear that there is, your own bathroom. Sometimes it's a bathroom on the hall, where it's like,
Yes.
it's like
Yes.
it's the culture, right? It's the culture in North America.
Yes.
So to hear that there's like single rooms, that's not common either. Usually you can see that in movies, right? People share rooms, and they also share restrooms with the whole hall, not just your roommates, but also other people around
Yes.
your hall. But anyway, I don't know if you're aware of that. So that's why I just wanted to point it out. And then the other thing, because I talk too much, but the other thing is you were talking about co-op, right?
Yes.
So how it's possible for you to get a job after you graduate.
Yeah.
In that co-op that you did. Co-op, guys, is that internship opportunity where you actually take some time off school because you're not having classes or not as many classes.
It's somewhat, but we do it a little bit different.
You do it differently.
We do it differently because one, we don't call it an internship for a reason, because an internship implies that it's not paid, right? A co-op is paid. You're getting paid. I mean, if you're going to be working somewhere, you need to be paid, right? So we call it a co-op, and the co-op is part of your studies. So you don't take time off school, you just use your co-op as part of your courses that are allocated. So let's say normally you would take 4 courses a term, but then you decide, well, I want to do a co-op next term. So instead of taking 4 courses, you take 3 courses plus your co-op. Not only will you get paid for that co-op experience, but you have the opportunity of doubling up, of using your co-op experience as a class, as for academic credit. So not only do you get paid as you're going to that bank to do your co-op, but at the end of your 4-month experience, which is typically the length of a co-op, you'll get university credit for that option.
I heard, and you have to tell me if that's true, that when you graduate from a Canadian university, you have the opportunity to have 2 more years with a visa, with a working visa.
It's more than 2 years. It's actually 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
So
yes.
if you do a really good job in your co-op and you get that job, you're actually staying in Canada for what, 7 years, if you want to?
Yes, if you want to, or longer. But it's even more simplified than that, because students who graduate from a Canadian university, they automatically have eligibility to apply for what is called a post-graduation work permit. That post-graduation work permit is open-ended, meaning that you don't actually need a job. You don't need a job offer. You don't need a letter from an employer. You just apply for this work permit, and then you can find a job later. Of course, good students, someone who has done a co-op will most likely be hired on, whether it's in, say, that bank that they did their co-op or in a similar industry. That 3-year work permit is really advantageous, because in Canada, there is an understanding, or want to give students who commit their time, their money, families that commit their money to a Canadian institution, the opportunity to work, to apply what they were learning in school and get that 3-year work permit. So I did that as an international student. I went to the University of Winnipeg. After I graduated, I applied for my 3-year work permit. If you choose to stay in the province of Manitoba, and you feel, wow, I've spent quite a bit of time here and I really love it, there is a dedicated stream to get permanent residency. It's called the Manitoba Provincial Nominee Program. and that allows you to apply for permanent residency in Canada and eventually become a citizen. So this is a journey that I have taken. The opportunities to stay in the country after you finish your studies are there. And many international students take advantage of that.
Which is very different from the US, right? Because
Yes.
they don't have that in the US. You just leave afterwards.
Yes, exactly. One other thing I want to say about residence, the Balmoral options houses, is that yes, you're going to get your own room, but in the house, it's not just one bathroom that you're sharing with like 4 people. There are at least two full bathrooms, and sometimes there's, depending on the house, there's a half bathroom. So it is quite convenient. It gives the feel of being in a house, and it's fully furnished, right? You've got your own bed, you've got your own space, but also the kitchen is equipped. You've got a backyard, you've got a barbecue, you've got a basement. So yeah, it's a house. Yeah, it gives a nice homely feel. Finally, as I kind of wrap up both here and also for the folks online, I just want to mention that as international students at the University of Winnipeg, there are dedicated services that are geared towards making your transition from Brazil to Winnipeg that much more, a little bit smoother, a little bit more rewarding. I remember I had all kinds of feelings when I was boarding that plane to go to Canada. It was a mix of excitement, fear, a little bit of anxiety, a bit of trepidation. But one of the things that really made those initial few days just so amazing was the fact that someone came and picked me up from the airport. Someone from the international student office on my second day had a conversation with me about how to choose classes, what I should, not necessarily what I should take, but gave me pointers on what classes I should think about taking based on what I was interested in. Also answered questions that were making me a little bit nervous, such as, oh, if I take this class and I don't like it, then what? Is that going to be a waste? And my academic advisor would say, oh, no, it's not going to be a waste. Even if you don't like it, you've got time to drop that class. So the dedicated services for international students are there to really help you make that transition as smooth as possible, including things such as counseling on campus. We've got a clinic on campus. Maybe you're taking a math or sciences and you just need a little bit extra in terms of tutoring. The tutoring center is there for you. Maybe, I am an English speaker, so Kenya, we speak English, but speaking English and actually writing academic English are two different things, two very different things. So my first year was actually a little bit of a struggle because I would write papers and I'd get a mark and I'd be like, wow, so many red correction errors. And what I did was I had a chat with the international office and they said, hey, we actually have a writing center here at the University of Winnipeg. Why don't you go and have a chat with them? They'll be able to help you structure your courses in a way that is academically a little bit better than you currently are doing. These services are free on campus. As international students, you'll already be paying for them. So utilize them, make use of the services that are on campus, whether it is you come to the University of Winnipeg or other universities that you choose to go to. Keep an eye out on what type of services do they, especially if you decide to go abroad, what kind of services do they offer, are dedicated to international students? Because trust me, even if, no matter how prepared you are, you're never that prepared until you get there and you realize, oh, I have no idea where to buy a toque, which is the hat that you wear in the winter, or a jacket, or you're kind of wondering about the different courses and how they will apply to your degree. So those services are available to you at the University of Winnipeg. And with that, I want to say thank you very much. opening it up for questions, comments, but I hope this has been helpful for you, and I hope many of you start thinking about Canada as a country to do your post-secondary studies.
I have a question
Yes.
regarding, I have a lot of questions, sorry guys. I have a question regarding research. So how are students, are undergraduate students able to do research in their undergraduate studies? Do they have teachers available for that?
Yes, absolutely. An amazing question. So earlier I said that the University of Winnipeg is primarily an undergraduate university. So we do have some students who are doing their masters, but at the U of W, we have what are called Canada Research Chairs. So these are labs, for example, that multi-million-dollar labs that are located at the University of Winnipeg that are doing some really high-end research. And undergraduate, because we don't have too many master's students or students doing PhD programs, many undergraduate students get into research opportunities that if we were a larger university, you'd have to wait until you finish your bachelor's and be in a master's program before you can get those research opportunities. So they're there in pretty much any of our faculties. You will find professors to work with. Our profs will know their students right from their first year, know them by name. Our class sizes are between 25 to 1. So that makes a real difference when you are seeking research opportunities at the U of W.
Okay, you have one. Okay, I was just gonna far away, but here it is.
In the admission process, how much counts the service learning?
How much?
How much counts the service learning?
Counts. Service. So please, service learning, is that a course or is
service learning is like volunteer work?
Volunteer work, yes. So for the admission process at the University of Winnipeg, like most Canadian institutions, it's actually very straightforward. For example, we don't require an SAT or an ACT or any of those standardized exams. What we're looking for is your grades from high school. That's it. Any kind of volunteering, service learning, any of that will count, not so much for the admissions process because we use merit, but that will count towards scholarship eligibility and being competitive for a scholarship, especially that $5,000 President Scholarship for World Leaders.
I'm Paulo.
Hi, Paulo.
You said about the psychology. You'll talk about a little about it. I want to know if the university provides any facilities for the person that want to graduate in psychology or something like that.
Yes. So a program like psychology has your first couple of years will be fairly typical, fairly standard, intro level psychology type courses. And most students who are in psych, as well as the other majors, once they get into their third year, that's when they start branching out and focusing on a special part of psychology. So for example, you might be interested in child psychology or maybe more social psychology. We've got a number of professors who have lots of different specializations in many different types of psychologies, as well as research labs that are on campus. So you'll be able to be part, for example, of a big research project that really goes a long way when you are an undergraduate student. And by the time you're done your 4-year degree and you've got like research experience within psychology, at that point, it makes you very competitive when it now comes time to applying for graduate school or a master's program. Yeah.
I have a question regarding your film studies or fine arts. What do you have in those? What are the opportunities you have for internships, for example, or partnerships connected to those areas?
Yeah, excellent. So Winnipeg as a city has been up and coming in the last, I would say maybe 5 years as a destination of various types of TV programs, movies, that are being shot in Winnipeg. At the University of Winnipeg, our theater and film program is about the third largest in Canada. Large in the sense, not many students, but lots of different options, right? Everything from acting to directing. Remember I mentioned I had a friend who did computer science and film because they were interested in CGI work. Production, post-production. We've had students, for example, who they were artists and they came, did the theater and film program and are really now focused on backstage production, building beautiful sets for plays. At the University of Winnipeg, our theater and film program really offers a number of students quite a few different options, not just in the performance arts, but also all the other industries that support performances. It's amazing to see the different types of jobs that are required to put on a play, to put on, to make a movie. And in terms of the city and the opportunities that will that it provides, the movie industry and the film industry is really growing in the city of Winnipeg. Every spring, summer, we have movies being shot in Winnipeg. I live next to a house that I actually, for the longest time, didn't know anyone lived in it. But because every few months, I would see film crews outside this house, and the whole street would basically be blocked off because they were shooting a movie, they were making a film. One year, I saw Keanu Reeves. He was walking down the street, the same street that I live in. Christopher Walken one time was at the University of Winnipeg because they were using the university as a location for, I don't know if it was a movie or I don't know if it was a movie or a television series. So lots of opportunities for students in the theater and film. Not so much fine arts because we don't have a fine arts faculty, but again, students who are artistic, they, in many different ways, they will be able to find a place in our theater and film program.
All right, do we have any other questions? No, they seem very tired. They were in a fair as well.
That's okay. That's okay. So lots of information, but I hope it's helpful. I hope it's helpful, and I hope you consider Canada for university.
Thank you so much for coming, Alex. It's a pleasure to have you here. Actually, we wanted to give you a gift. I think you got this back, and I don't remember.
I don't think so.
No,
No,
so
I
this
didn't.
is new for you.
This
So
is
this is
new.
actually a bag designed by our students. It says that it tells a story because it was written letters for their heroes. So fourth graders wrote letters during the pandemic to their heroes.
Oh, wow.
And we actually used those to create this bag. It's also recycled bag from plastic bottles.
Oh, nice.
And there's a pen,
Oh, lovely.
There's some projects, that I mentioned that we do some projects here connected to Emmy Wengo's.
Yes.
So we have a booklet there that will, tell you some of these stories.
Okay,
so
lovely.
thank you very
so
much. Thank you so much, guys, for being here. If you guys want Alex information, please come here. If you want a flyer, also step up so you can get this information on paper as well. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks so much.